I have the honor of leading the United Nations Association of the United States. We're a network of over 21,000 Americans, 60% under the age of 25. We're not part of the UN, but we're people who find something in the UN's charter, something in the UN's urgent mission, something that connects to part of ourselves. And we're confident in our citizenship, global or otherwise. When the Secretary General called upon all 193 member nations to crowdsource public input into the new global goals, our association stepped up to the plate, hosted 50 consultations in cities across the United States, sourcing input from middle-aged veterans and middle school students into the world they want, driving tens of thousands of votes onto the UN's My World 2015 website. And the choices those Americans made are telling. For the 3,500 American girls under the age of 15 who joined us to cast their vote for the world they want, gender equality, a good education were their top priorities. Inspiring, yes, but far more compelling when put in context. For the 1,610 girls under 15 in Yemen, a country in the crucible of conflict, who somehow, some way found their way onto that same site, they chose the same two priorities. As a nation founded on a universal premise, we hold these truths to be self-evident. We should not be surprised to find so much of our values, so much of our shared ambitions in the new global goals. But at our heart, we at UNA USA are advocates for action. We know that fulfilling these goals and advancing the aspirations of girls in Sana'a or San Antonio depends on committed, passionate leaders on both sides of the aisle. And we're here to honor two such leaders tonight. True public servants who've risen above partisan differences and competing priorities to help the UN help the world. We are honoring Congresswoman Nita Lowey, representing the 17th District of New York, the senior Democrat on the House Committee on Appropriations, who fights year in and year out for full American funding for the UN, including the United Nations peacekeeping budget. Her work on appropriations has been critical to ensuring that the UN has fully paid its dues 7 years running, giving the UN the resources it needs to save lives, to advance human dignity. Our members of Congress are back in Washington for votes, but Representative Lowey sent us this message to greet us tonight.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to the UN Foundation for this very generous recognition. I regret I cannot be with you all in New York, but the House of Representatives is in session in Washington. Nonetheless, I join everyone in the room in celebration of the 70th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations. Throughout my time in Congress, I have consistently supported robust U.S. engagement at the United Nations. The UN is instrumental in advancing our national security, interests around the world, and in helping confront terrorism, nuclear proliferation, infectious disease, extreme poverty, and environmental degradation. With unprecedented levels of human suffering and humanitarian needs, the UN's ability to respond, send peacekeepers, and foster stability remains as critical as ever. Mr. Secretary General, I also want to express my appreciation for your efforts to prioritize the needs of women and girls around the world. During the last 20 years, we've made progress in helping women live longer, gain access to an education, and marry later in life, but we still have much more work to do. Women are disproportionately illiterate, affected by conflict and disease, and the victims of domestic violence. I'm pleased the new Sustainable Development Goals wisely target the empowerment of women and girls and gender equality. I know we all agree there is no greater force multiplier than empowered women. In developed and developing countries alike, from conflict zones to rural communities, When we make women's rights and opportunity top priorities, we stand a much better chance of defeating intolerance, poverty, disease, and extremism. That's why I have devoted much of my career in Washington to promoting girls' and women's health, education, and community participation, and as ranking member of the House Appropriations Committee and the Subcommittee on State and Foreign Operations, I stand ready to work with the United Nations to further these goals. Again, I am honored to receive this year's Leadership Award. I thank everyone in the room for their efforts to end poverty, combat inequality, and promote prosperity around the world. Thank you, and have a good evening.
We are also honoring Representative Steve Chabot, a Republican of Ohio's 1st District. As a senior member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Representative Chabot worked with the UN Foundation's Girl Up campaign to introduce the Girls Count Act of 2015, designed to ensure that girls everywhere are given birth certificates. Signed into law by President Obama earlier this year, the Girls Count Act underpins American leadership on an issue vital both for advancing the welfare of girls, but also accomplishing the goals. Congressman Chabot's back in Washington, and he sent us this message.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person. I'm stuck here in Washington, D.C. with a very busy schedule, as I'm sure you can imagine. As I'm sure you know, there are 250 million children, about a third of those children under the age of 5, who the fact of their birth is not registered. They don't have birth certificates. They're basically non-persons. It makes life a lot tougher for them. It makes it difficult to get health care, housing, an education, someday to get a job, almost impossible to travel, can't get a passport. Life's just a lot harder. And it can also be very dangerous. For girls in particular, the danger of sexual trafficking, exploitation is very real, and it can be real for boys as well. So in working with the UN Foundation and a whole lot of other very dedicated people, the Girls Up campaign, for example, I was fortunate and honored to be able to spearhead this effort in the House of Representatives, and in a bipartisan way with both Democrats and Republicans working together, we were able to get this legislation passed in the House and the Senate to the President's desk, and President Obama signed it into law. So it's now the law of the land, and it does give us the opportunity now to make it more possible around the world to make sure that these children actually have birth certificates. We'll be working with the State Department and their counterparts in other governments to make sure that this actually happens. So an awful lot of children will now have a chance for a better life. Chris, I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to thank the Secretary General and the UN Foundation and the Girls Up campaign and everyone else involved in this. And on behalf of those children that will benefit, I'm happy to accept this award. So thank you very much. Look forward to working together with you on something else in the near future. Thank you.